Hey guys, welcome back and welcome if you are new. Today we're doing a little bit of a controversial video. I might step on a couple toes, which I don't love to do, but I just felt like I needed to make this video. As you can tell by the title, I'm going to be going through popular BookTok, BookTube, you know, popular books that are super in right now or were super in at one point that people really hyped up and I had really high expectations for, and these books did not live up to those expectations. Now, I do want to put it out there first before I dive into this video. If you love these books, great, because everyone has a different opinion when it comes to books. Everybody likes different styles and different genres, and it's a complete and total taste thing and very personal. Just for me personally, these weren't the best books. These weren't worth all of the hype that I saw going around on the internet. And also, even with these books, I'm not even saying that I full on hate them or they were horrible books. They just were not that 5-star, change your life, you have to read it kind of a book. Some of them were just you know, it was a book. It wasn't horrible, but it was not that great either. Anyway, we're gonna go through the list of books that I've grabbed off my bookshelf. So these are all books that I've bought and kind of wish I'd spent money on different books because I just didn't love them, you know? So sometimes it's a bummer to spend the money on a book and then you read it and you don't love it. And I think I'm going to go ahead and start with the most controversial one that I have so far, because I have made some shorts on YouTube with this book and my gosh, people do not love my opinion on it. So we'll see how this goes. But the first one on my list is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. Yes, I know that this book and this series is a very well-loved book and a lot of people are obsessed with it and it's one of their favorites, and that is great. I did not think it was really good at all, actually. I kind of hated it, which is funny. I just got done saying I don't hate these books, but this one I just did not like it. I did not vibe with the main character. She just was really annoying. Honestly, I don't think there was a single character in this book that I liked. They were all it was not a book for me. The only thing that was like somewhat interesting was the side story of like the unsolved mystery, but even that was not enough for me to pick up the rest of the series. Like, I could not wait for this book to be over. The only reason I finished it is because it had been too long that I couldn't return it. I've read much better books, much better mysteries than this one. I'm sorry, it just was not. It was not it. And like I said, I know there's a lot of people who really, really love this book, and if you do, that's great. But for me personally, this was a no-go. I think I gave this 1 star. Like, yeah, so we're gonna leave it at that. Just was not it. All right, so this next one is another very well raved about book, and it is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. Yeah, Laura Nolan. This one, I, again, just didn't love it. And I'm probably going to end up saying that so many times because that's what this video is. But it was honestly quite boring, which I feel horrible saying, but it really was. Like, nothing really happens. I feel like the story doesn't start until like the last third, even quarter of the book. And I know there are some people who love to like read that like kind of mundane people going through their lives and the day in and day out kind of stuff, but for me it was just so little happening that it was a little bit of like a yawn for me. Now, I will say though, I did cry at the end. It is a sad book. It is very sad, but that was kind of it. And it's just because of what happens that was sad. It wasn't even that I was connected to the characters. It was just, it hit me at the right moment of exactly what happened, and I was like, that's really sad. And I cried about it. But other than that, it was just an odd book, so not a favorite. Again, I think that one was, I think I may have rated it 3 stars just because I did cry at the end, so the author was able to get me enough that I felt an emotion, but I just kind of, again, couldn't wait for it to end. Sorry. Then I have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This one was okay. It's one of those ones where I think it was way overhyped. I read it, I was like, okay, that's it. Like, I was expecting so much more, and it could have simply been just that I saw so many people hype it up so much, and like, you have to read this book. This is a 5-star read. Like, your life will be changed if you read it, kind of a deal. And then you read it and you're like, oh, that was it? Like, so I think it was just overhyped, honestly, is why I didn't love it as much as I probably would have if I just had picked it up. Don't really remember much of what happens in it. I don't even remember the characters' names. It was just meh for me. I'd probably recommend it if people are wanting like a quick, easy little kind of rom-com kind of a deal, but nothing to write home about with this one. Next one is kind of the same thing. Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. YA murder mystery. It was an okay book. I feel like it's one of those books that if you've been a reader for a long time, you kind of see what's going to happen. Like, it was kind of obvious. I grew up reading lots of mysteries. That was like my genre back in the day, that like I would only read mysteries for the longest time. And so just being used to them, it's like, okay, I see what's going to happen next. It was kind of obvious. It wasn't anything like incredible, but it was a good book. It was a very decent read. It was a cute read, but it wasn't even enough for me to like pick up the next books in the series. It's okay, but not great. This one, okay, honestly, I think I'm going to rant a little bit on this one, okay, guys? And I'm sorry. And it's so funny because making this kind of video goes against everything in me, because I do hate controversy and hurting people's feelings. So, but this book, I just gotta say, I despised this series. Oh gosh, I'm probably asking for it at this point, but this summer I turned pretty. I am sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It just wasn't that good. It was not that good. I don't think it was good enough to make a TV series out of. Like, it just was boring. It's a YA series, so of course you know it's young adult, but was very young. Very much like middle grade reader, I would say. I could not stand Belly. She annoyed me to no end, and I think because she's like 14 and she acts 14, and I just felt like she was bratty and annoying, and I wasn't rooting for her to be with anyone. And then I also didn't love as the series progressed, because I'm like, well, I have to read all the books to see what this crazy hype is, and I never saw it. But I felt like throughout the series there was a character, I guess you'd call it development, that happens with one of the characters later in the series that I feel like did not make any sense. It felt like a personality swap where I'm like, from based off this character in previous books, they wouldn't have done that. And so I just didn't like that. It just felt like there needed to be a controversy, so let's make one, and they did, and the author did, and it didn't flow very well. It didn't seem like it made sense. So it was just a lot of things about it that I don't think I would recommend this to anyone and be like, oh, you need to read these books. Maybe I'd recommend it to a really young kid, but even then, I don't know that I would. I don't know. They just weren't that good. Maybe if I read them when I was Belly's age, 13, 14, maybe I would have been more into it, but it just did nothing for me. If you love those books, go ahead and love them. But for me, it's a no. After that one, I have 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. Everyone was just like, you need to read this book. It's gonna rip your heart out and break it, and it's so emotional and so good. And if you want to cry, then get this book. And sometimes I like to feel an emotion when I'm reading a book. Sometimes I do like a book that makes me cry. This book, again, I did cry a tiny bit, but it felt so long. And Rune, the main guy character, he annoyed me to no end. I felt like there was so much that he was like so selfish and just obnoxious and just rude. He just really bugged me, and I felt like throughout the whole book he just was so focused on like himself and how sad he was, and I'm like, dude, pull it together. I feel bad even saying any of that, but I mean, that's how I felt. That is how I felt reading the book. I couldn't wait for it to be over because I couldn't stand him. He just annoyed me. I felt like the female character was really sweet and really nice, and then he was just dramatic and annoying and also very cringy. It was, I could not with his, was it Scandinavian? Norwegian, that's what it is. And he speaks to her like in his language. I just, I could not do it. It was like so icky to me, and I know that some people probably found that very cute and endearing. I was just like, nope. I don't know. It was cringy. It was weird. It's cringy. I didn't like it. I also didn't like the ending. The very, very end of it. I was like, what is going on? Like, what happened? Yeah, no. That was a no. The last one is yet again another very controversial one, but I think this is just a me personally thing. I've already gotten some hate about this, but it is what it is. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Just didn't love it. I did also read Crooked Kingdom because I'm like, it's a duology. It's a couple books. I know the first book's a little bit more difficult to get into because I didn't read Shadow and Bone. So I knew it would be a little bit complicated understanding it from the get-go because a lot of people said that. And it was a lot more difficult to catch on with things than I had thought. But also, it was just a lot. I know everyone loves the found family, and I do love the characters and the found family aspect of it, but what I did not like and no one ever mentioned, and I've mentioned before in previous videos, but that there is 6 point of views. 6. That is a lot. And it's so hard to keep up on. For me, it's like hard enough with like 2 point of views, but with 6 is insane. And every character is from somewhere different, speaks a different language, and it's just so confusing trying to keep up with what means what and who's from where and who am I reading about and who are they talking to, and trying to like it felt like watching ping pong. Like, it was just like you're back and forth. I'm like, wait. Like, I would have to sit there and take a minute, go to the beginning of the chapter and be like, okay, it's this person's point of view. It took so much brain power, and that kind of just was not it for me. They were also very descriptive. The author was which obviously, especially with the fantasy, you have to be descriptive to build the world and let people like understand what's happening and what's going on. But I felt like there was a good amount of unnecessary description where you're like reading like paragraphs and the author's just like talking about what this river looks like that has absolutely nothing to do with the story. And I'm like, this is boring. Like, just get to the story. Like, these are long books. This is 465 pages for the first book, and I think the second book's even longer. I felt like it could be so much shorter and you still would get the full feeling and story and characters and everything, but there was just so much scenery description too that just, it felt like too much. I will say, in fairness of this book, I don't like fantasy. Fantasy is not my genre. It's not my favorite. I can do, was it low fantasy? I don't know the difference. I know there's different types of fantasy, and I can do the ones where it's basically just like magic but in the real world. That I can handle. But when it gets into like way more in depth, and honestly, I know this is polar opposite to so many people, but if there's a map in the front of the book, I almost don't want to read it because I'm like, okay, wait, this is going to be complicated. This is going to be a lot. And I read books just entertain myself. And so if it takes me work to read the book, it just kind of defeats the point for me. I know a lot of people love these books, and it was a decent book, but I didn't feel like it had a 5-star feeling at all. But again, I think that's just a personal thing. Those are all the books that I have. I probably could find more, but with these books, like I said multiple times already, keep repeating myself, but I think it's just a personal thing. It could also just be how it hit me when I read those books and the time that I read them, that kind of thing, where, you know, I may not have been in the mood for that particular book, but I don't know, I just felt like sometimes it's nice to hear that someone else has a difference of opinion on different things and that not everybody's obsessed with everything that everyone else is. Sometimes it's just nice and refreshing and different to hear, like I said, difference of opinion. But I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. If you guys enjoyed, of course, like always, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and I will see you guys next time in my next video. Bye!
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know if I falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down.